Welcome to the Stress Outlet. My name is Dr. Kimberly Quinn, and Giovanni and I are at another late afternoon walk, which we usually don't do. We're early morning kinds of, folks, let's say that. But we're getting we're getting as much in as we can the next 2 days because hunting season starts in Vermont, and it's a huge, big deal when it's rifle season. So it's really not a good choice to be in the woods. So we're going to change it up, and we're going to go to a local resort where there's woods, but there's condos, so they're not allowed to shoot there, at least hopefully anyway. Okay, so what we want to talk about today, right, G, is, especially as we get closer to the holidays, we're going to talk about, ways to reduce anxiety. And so just in general, some of them will be in general, some of them will be holiday specific, but one really good way to start out before we even actually take that on officially is to, if you're feeling anxious, strongly consider limiting, diminishing, reducing, or completely shutting off social media, other than the stress outlet, of course, which gives everybody a lift, hopefully. Maybe not everybody, but lots of people a lift, I hope, anyway, because it's all positivity, stuff. But here's the thing. I'm not just kind of spewing verbiage. I actually did original research along with a student intern research assistant that I had not that long ago. I mean, 2018. So now it's, I'm sure, just gotten, worse. But here's the thing, is that it's kind of like when you're a researcher. Not that I would characterize myself as a researcher, but I did research. I've done a bunch of research. It's not at the top of my list, but at this particular time it was. Because what happened was, I'll just tell you what happened was, the research was in 2018, but probably before I started, probably 10 years ago, maybe, I asked for an informal poll from my Minecraft class, which was at that time huge, like 26 students, an average class. Now it's different, classes have gotten bigger, but back then, that was probably a third more than I usually had, huge class. So anyway, I said, raise your hand if when you get a phone notification, bing, ding, ding, zip, whatever, and it pulls you out of the present moment into the phone, whatever's going on with the phone, how many of you notice that your mood changes? And literally, I don't use the word every very often because polarized, words don't exist in reality for the most part. All 26 or 24 or 26, however many there were in there, every single hand went up. I didn't say positive or negative either. I just said your mood changed. And I thought, oh, there's my research topic right there. And so I came up with some things to measure. And with social media, it wasn't just, we did measure the hours used, and because that's important, but that wasn't the main criteria for what we were doing. It was also how emotionally invested, what the reasons were behind the social media. So since I'm not looking at the inventory, and at the time it was the cutting edge, it was, I can't rattle this off the top of my head. The survey started with an M, but it was cutting edge for 2018. And it asked questions such as, when I'm bored, I use social media. I use social media. And you ranked them on Likert scale from like 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 or whatever it was. I think it was 1 to 5. Anyway. And I use social media when I'm, trying to dodge responsibilities, or I use social media when I'm lonely. That just to give you the basic gist. So that was mostly what our research was about, and we kept track of the hours. And I know with my own students, the number of hours is way up there. I mean, some students are even on 8-10 hours a day, and with the parameters of outside of schoolwork or work. And they're still on there 8 or 10 hours a day. Some 6, but some of them are way up there. Very few are on there less than that. So put all that together. So what we did was we checked out anxiety. We checked out depression. We checked out impulsivity and distractibility. Can't really separate those two. So lo and behold, when, lots and lots of time, lots of emotional investment in social media, our attention span goes down. I think we know that because it's seeming these days that we, us, not meaning just the younger, the Gen Zs and the millennials, but across the boards, the seasoned folks too, we have the attention span of a gnat these days, and it's true. And also that the impulsivity also it increased. So that means impulsivity in general. You might jump faster to buy something. You might jump faster to eat something. You might jump faster to do whatever. Those rates went up high. And the last one I almost forgot. Actually, there's two. Another one was addiction. So the more there was an emotional investment in, whatever the social media was, the more it could put, not everybody, but the addiction rate obviously goes up really high. And that so across the boards, here's the thing, since I'm obviously not reading it, what we found was awesome in the sense that researchers want to prove their hypothesis, right? And we hypothesized all these things, that we would find the anxiety went up and depression went up and addiction, all the things went up. But it was bittersweet because when the results came in, they were even stronger than we predicted. And so that was the good news. Bad news, as a researcher, glad you found what you're looking for. Heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking. And some of the students wrote numbers, not numbers, I didn't mean to say that. They wrote, because this was all anonymous, obviously. Maybe it's not obvious, but really anonymous with surveys, right? And some of them wrote in the margin, am I the only one who got all of them on the depression scale? And we used the APA, the American Psychological Association's inventories for depression and anxiety. So those are straight up, straight from the horse, as they say. So students wrote to me. I have no way to get back to them because it's anonymous. But anyway, so there was that. And so just the whole thing. And then, what else do I have to say about this? So we know for sure you're not going to go wrong. I'm not saying give it up totally, because maybe that's too much. But to at least diminish it, and maybe just also be mindful of your mood. If you're in an anxious mood, you're kind of preoccupied and overwhelmed, that's not a time to go on social media, which is ironic kind of in a way, because a lot of times when we're overwhelmed, we slide into autopilot because it seems like that's restful, but it's an illusion of rest. It's not real rest at all. Autopilot is the biggest thief of life minutes that there could possibly be. So when we're not making an active decision to do something else, like read a book, go outside, go in the woods with your golden retriever, go play sports, go to the gym, lift weights, do yoga, and call a friend, all those other things, we often passively just jump on and scroll because it feels like, oh, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm exhausted, I don't want to do anything, I don't want to use my brain, and we just scroll. And what we don't realize is, like we've been talking about the last few weeks with making decisions, we make decisions every single day, all day long. So if we're not making an active decision, like let's go sit on the deck with my partner, let's go for a walk with my friend, let's go even in a mindful sense, watch a movie, like with conscious choice, not binge Netflix endlessly for hours and hours and hours, because that's an illusion of rest also. It's not resting, it's not rejuvenating, it's autopilot mode, which does not make us, it's an illusion that it makes us feel better. Long term, it's fatiguing, actually. And so it's really, really important. And again, you can't go wrong. Just give it a go. If you're usually on social media for 5 hours a day, try to cut it down by a half an hour. Try to cut it down by an hour. Because there's all kinds of things. Because I know with my Minecraft students, by the end of the semester, a lot of them would share. They did a personal care plan at the end of the semester with all the things, like different, their mindfulness ratings and all self-reporting, all private. They didn't have to share if they didn't want to. And how they're doing with forgiveness, letting things go, how they're doing with social media, how they're doing with fitness, nutrition, like all of it. And they would self-report that they put, some of them completely deleted, they knew like the apps that were the hardest for them. Like let's say you're an Instagram person. They just got rid of it because they knew they were going on a rabbit hole. Or Instagram wasn't their favorite. They spend maybe 20 minutes on it. Not horrible, especially for a Gen Z. But TikTok was a black hole. They got rid of that one. So like there are shades of gray. It doesn't mean give it all up. But to diminish it, make some changes, really, really important. Because if you're feeling anxious and or depressed, because they're part of the same spectrum, really. That's why, the SSRIs are used. There are other medications, so I don't want to make a big, bold statement like that. For the most part, the same medication is used for both. And panic's a little different. The benzos are often used for that. But there's a reason that the SSRIs are used for both. My sister's on that for depression. My brother's on that for anxiety. It's Prozac. So same thing. So if you're struggling challenged with, a work in progress with, let's try to be as positive as possible, with anxiety or depression, you really want to get a handle on your social media use, definitely. And if you're also, just throw this in there for a little bonus, if you tend to be sort of prone to anxiety, you definitely want to lay off the caffeine. And if you're prone to depression, you definitely want to lay off the sugar. Because I'm not saying don't have it at all, but really be mindful of it, because there was a book out in the 70s or 80s, I don't know, a long time ago, called The Sugar Blues. And that's totally real. Like, even neurotypicals can crash from sugar, but if somebody's really struggling with depression, you want to not have that very often. You know, stay away from sodas, the whole thing. And again, anxiety-wise, you definitely want to stay away from like the monster drinks, those high caffeine beverages, because those aren't going to help you very much if you're anxious. And then that combined with diminishing the social media, just reduce it. Again, nobody's saying get rid of it entirely unless you know you need to do that for yourself. But watch it change things. All that said, and here's part of why. Social media, when we're pulled down that rabbit hole, it's often because the very second that the notification comes on, mood change, right? Because the brain is an association machine. We cannot not make associations. If we see a flyer of a beach, like we're in the dentist office or something, and they have a vacation magazine there, something relaxing like they have in dentist office, that might take you back to when you went on, you know, that awesome trip to the beach in the Bahamas with your family or with your partner or whatever. Or it may send you the other direction where, you know, maybe it's February and you're at the dentist and you really, really want to go on a vacation. You work so hard, you haven't been anywhere in a long time, and then you start thinking of why can't I do this? Like, I'm paying my bill, I'm working, I'm paying my bills, I'm doing everything right, and why don't I have any extra money to do it? So same things. Now what happens with social media is that never goes away. I don't like to use polarized words with social media. That's another legit use of a polarized word, because it's not going away. You can, as long as you're scrolling, you're going to see who's in a relationship, who's at the party, who got into graduate school, who just bought a new house, who's on the 5th cruise in 5 years, who's on whatever, and we compare ourselves. And so Leon Festinger, I use Leon for my dissertation, well, not Leon himself, but his theory of social comparison for my dissertation, because long time ago, because you choose, you know, theories to base your research on. And Leon, back in 1951, imagine that, no cell phones, no computers, no anything like that, no technology, was talking about the 50s, the early 50s, so almost the 40s. So the situation was out of sight, out of mind. So if the Murphys, let's say you're in the neighborhood, regular middle-class American neighborhood, and Mr. Murphy, you know, goes by in his shiny new, you know, station wagon with his 2.5 kids. It was always weird to hear that. Like, how do you have 2.5 kids? But anyway, so he goes rolling in, so maybe your family is saying, you know, those kids are saying, oh, the Murphys just got a station wagon. Why are we driving around this old beater car? The minute Mr. Murphy pulled into his driveway, you know, those thoughts might linger for 5 minutes, but then it's over because you can't see it anymore. Well, the difference, which is wild, that Leon Festinger's theory still holds true today, if not more so, when he couldn't even have envisioned the technology thing, there's no longer a way to, you know, we're not pulling it into the garage. It's 24/7, 24/7. If you want to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning anywhere in the world, literally anywhere across the globe, and what you want to get your stressed out, you get yourself stressed out and full of FOMO and what you don't have and where you haven't gone, all the things you don't have, whatever you want to be and you didn't do it, you coulda, shoulda, wouldas, and all that stuff. You can get yourself worked up in any time zone. And if you want to, by turning on social media. That's what's different from the 50s. Mr. Murphy's station wagon was put to bed every night. No one thought about it again until he drove to work the next day. And the kids probably were already on the school bus, so they didn't see it anyhow. So that's the thing, is this is, can really cause mental torture, seeing way too much all the time. And so this is one big reason it's a good idea to reduce your social media use as much as you can. Start out small. Even if it's, you're on it 5 hours a day and you cut it back by 20 minutes. Baby steps, you know, small wins. Small wins lead to big victories. That's it. Because here's the thing, you know, anxiety comes from a feeling of not having control. So there's some more irony here. One thing we can absolutely control is pushing the off button. We can choose to not look at screens. We can choose to turn the phone off. We can choose to put the phone in a drawer and go for a walk. Completely off. or put it, you know, somewhere even farther away. If you have a house, put it out in the garage or something, and just stop it. You know, same thing with the remote for the TV. Same thing with video games. It's kind of, the irony is, oh, anxiety, I'm out of control, my life's out of control. Well, so push the button on the social media, and things will get better for you immediately. I'm sure of it, immediately. I'm not saying it's going to fix the whole thing, but it will absolutely 100% improve your mental health and overall well-being. Oh, I have one more thing. Back to the research thing, because I forgot this. This was actually our claim to fame, which was probably my most heartbreaking, you know, sort of thing. Like, if I couldn't come up with something right there. The thing with the research is that I told you about the anxiety and the impulsivity and all that. Well, one of the things we studied, researched, was life satisfaction, overall life satisfaction, and the scale is from Ed Diener, anyway, one of those, and it's been one of the most widely used surveys. It's so quick, it's fast. It takes maybe 5 minutes to fill it out. So here's the thing: is that that the students, they're all in the age range of like between 18 and 20, I'd say 22 mostly, and then you have a couple of non-traditionals who are like 23 or 4. So most would say between 18 and 24. And so as their social media use and the emotional investment, all the things I said, were up high, their overall life satisfaction numbers tanked. They plummeted. Heartbreaking. These young adults have their whole lives ahead of them, and there were so many of them who basically hated their life. That's a word I really don't like, but it fits here. They just tanked out in life satisfaction. Imagine that, you know, and you got so much to look forward to, and it had a whole lot. You know, there was a definite you know, link to the two. Definitely, you know, a co-relationship, as I say, correlational values, no question. Okay, so if you're feeling anxious, turn it off. All right, Giovanni, you're gonna say, peace out, right, G? All right, have a good one.